The Sino-Japanese Wars include a range of military conflicts fought between China and Japan throughout history, each with its own causes and aftermath. The main wars include the First and Second Sino-Japanese Wars. Both left a long-lasting and complex legacy on China-Japan relations. China and Japan were at different development points at the end of the 19th century. After decades of political and economic instability, China, once an imperial giant, was weakened. Meanwhile, Japan, following the 1868 Meiji Restoration, had rapidly modernized and was looking to expand its reach in the region. The two countries' major dispute was over Korea, a vassal kingdom of China at the time. In an effort to break away from Chinese supremacy in the region, Japan supported Korean independence. In turn, China viewed Korea as part of its sphere of influence and opposed losing control of the kingdom. A peasant rebellion broke out in Korea in 1894. China and Japan both sent troops to suppress the uprising. The action triggered the outbreak of war, with both countries vying for supremacy on the Korean peninsula. Hostilities quickly spread to Chinese territory, with the Japanese winning several decisive battles. The more up-to-date and well-equipped Japanese army quickly overwhelmed the Chinese troops in numerous battles. The major Japanese victories occurred in the battles of Pyongyang, Asan, and Liaoyang in 1894. The Imperial Japanese Navy also mastered the seas, obtaining an important victory at the Battle of Senkaku Islands on March 23, 1895. The conflict was notable for the Japanese use of modern military technology, such as steel warships and repeating rifles, giving them an advantage over the more outdated Chinese army. By 1895, China was obliged to sign the Treaty Shimonoseki, which ended the war. It gave Japan control over Taiwan, the Fisherman Island, and the Liaodong Peninsula. Korea was also declared independent from China. This conflict also fostered nationalism and anti-imperialist sentiment in China, helping to spark the unrest that would lead to the 1900 Boxer Rebellion. The war's triumph cemented Japan's position as a regional power and revealed China's demise. But Korean independence was short-lived. Japan annexed it in 1910, and the country remained under Japanese colonial rule until the end of the Second World War. The First Sino-Japanese War sparked deep hatred in China against Japan. This would intensify over the following decades and lead to the Second Sino-Japanese War. It was a brutal conflict that left thousands dead and was scarred by atrocities and war crimes from both sides. The Second Sino-Japanese War was a large-scale conflagration which began in 1937 between China and Japan. The founding roots of the war can be found in a number of factors that included Japan's expansionist ambitions, driven by a militaristic nationalism, and looking to create a greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. A border skirmish between Chinese and Japanese troops on Beijing's Marco Polo Bridge on July 7, 1937, provided the grounds for a full-scale Japanese invasion. Early successes were achieved, with Japan capturing important Chinese cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, and Nanjing. The Japanese troops' sheer brutality during the invasion, especially in the Nanking Massacre, triggered widespread international outrage. Following the initial triumphs, Japan found it difficult to capture China's interior. Led by Chiang Kai-shek, the Chinese government withdrew into the countryside and set up a guerrilla warfare strategy to erode the Japanese army. Japan unleashed a large-scale offensive into the Japanese countryside during 1937, aimed at severing supply routes for Chinese forces and capturing important urban centers such as Wuhan and Changsha. In turn, China resisted through the intervention of foreign powers, mainly the Soviet Union and the United States, providing military assistance to help China defend itself against Japan. In 1941, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor pushed the United States to enter the Second World War, changing the course of the conflict. The US supplied military and financial support to China, while bombing Japanese cities and bases. When Japan surrendered in 1945, following the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Second Sino-Japanese War ended. The war had been extraordinarily violent, resulting in many deaths, with between 15 and 30 million lives estimated to have been lost, and great devastation in China. Its defeat meant the end of Japan's expansionist aspirations and the beginning of a period of American occupation. Although it had sustained heavy losses, China emerged from the war as a regional power with a more assertive role on the international stage. The Second Sino-Japanese War was one of the major conflicts in human history, and had a far-reaching impact on East Asian history. It left a lingering legacy of resentment and suspicion between China and Japan, which can still be seen today in relations between both countries.